Okay, thank you everyone. Right after lunch, I want to talk about a few numbers. I have about 5 minutes. Run through the numbers, talk about few successful case studies, and touch upon some of the challenges faced in selling into SMBs. India is the world's second largest number of SMBs, about 47 SMBs in India, and it employs over 100 million people and contributes about 40% of the GDP, right? One of the fastest growing, one of the most high impact to the economy. And if you look at it, most of the companies are really micro companies. Over 63% of the companies have less than 10 employees, right? And then only about 3% of the companies have over a million employees. And if you then further cut this and look at the companies which can adopt technology, the number dramatically comes down from 47 million to about 9 million SMBs. So most of the medium-sized companies can potentially adopt IT, and then you have the small and micro companies. And if you look at the cut again, further cut it by verticals, retail, professional services, which includes doctors and chartered accountants, lawyers, and so on, and then manufacturing becomes the three key verticals where we believe the technology adoption will happen over the next several years. Some of the key drivers, one is the technology access. The owners of these SMBs are starting to use technology, be it the smartphones, are starting to bank online, starting to use e-commerce to, as a consumer, they are getting used to technology, and that is enabling them to start using technology. Second, a lot of their customers are shifting online. So that's also forcing some of these companies to have an online strategy, right? So those are two broad drivers. There are other drivers as well, but these are two broad drivers. What we see has changed in the last 2 years, which is enabling the SMBs to adopt technology. But there are a whole bunch of challenges. You talk to the SMB, you talk to the IT vendors. Each of them have their own set of challenges. The SMBs talk about a IT company really not sending the best people for services to, and a lot of the time the product what they have built is not relevant for the local needs of the SMB, right? Versus if you talk to the IT company, they say, hey, SMBs in the US when you sell to the SMBs just buy online. Versus in India, when you sell to SMB, they expect us to go to their office and sell to them, and that increases the overall cost of selling into the SMBs. Second, the level of support the SMBs needs is very high. They almost have the owner, the software company owner's phone on their mobile, and for every single thing they would want to talk to the owner of the software company, however large the software company is, right? So the challenges are different for each of these areas. And if you look at the companies which have really done well, except for Tally here, most of the other ERP, CRM companies have not done well in the India market, right? The companies which are done well are really ones which are meaningfully impacting the transaction of the customer, be it in terms of they're helping them sell more products or helping them in save cost in procuring certain number of products. If you look at Just Dial, for example, one of the most successful companies, and they used the feet on the street to get companies online, but the value from Just Dial was very, very tangible. People understood they're paying them because Just Dial is giving them leads back. So value for SMBs is very, very clear, and that's one of the reasons Just Dial or IndiaMart has been successful. Second, you look at Power to SME, the opposite side of the value chain. They're saying, okay, I'll enable SMBs to do group buy. Thereby, each SMB doesn't have to go and talk to the manufacturer to procure products. Now, Power to SME is bringing a conglomeration of SMEs and able to negotiate better discounts with the larger suppliers. So that, again, one of the reasons why Power to SME was funded quite heavily, and the company is rapidly growing in the last few years. And NowFloat's again an interesting company, right? Because they're able to get an SMB online in a very, very easy, frictionless manner. With just in 10, 15 minutes, they're able to get online. And not only online, if a SMB is able to even do SEO and SEM, just using an SMS as an interface. And that's it's a very powerful technology, and that's one of the reasons NowFloat has been able to add about 30,000 customers in a very short period. Look at GoDaddy as an example. And why the reason I put GoDaddy, even though it's a global company, is because the focus on branding, right? They came in, they branded heavily to the SMBs, had a very strong technical support organization. When SMB calls into the technical support organization, they're able to upsell the products what GoDaddy has. Practo is an interesting.
Is it clear now? Oh, good. Thank you. So the question that I was asking Pari is that we are seeing the market is there, the market is huge. When you just showed that it's the second largest market in the world after China. But yet we are not seeing the superstars like Tally coming up every year or every. What's the reason for that? What do people need to do and understand more?
I think it's not a question of market. I think it's a lack of imagination from the IT vendors or the startups selling into the SMBs, right? If you talk to most of the startups today, they are all building the same ERP system and they're building the same CRM system. You go and talk to a small manufacturing firm and sell them customer relationship management. They don't even connect to that word, right? Go and implement an ERP system and tell them, hey, I want to map out your organization structure and cost centers. They don't understand that. So a lot of the solution which is available today in the market is really, like I said, it has to help them increase the revenue in a meaningful manner, where the owner is focusing his time on.
Okay.
It's not top, right now most of the solution, the owner is really, okay, somebody in my IT department will take care of it. It's not a burning problem. I don't think it's a market issue. I think it's a solution portfolio issue. And I showed you some of the solutions which is working. These are something which is meaningfully impacting the business of the SMB.
Fantastic. So Shoaib, you kind of cracked this market a few decades back very successfully, and even now you're considered as the best well-known star when we talk of SMB market. Do you think the same model is still relevant even now, and or what are the changes that you feel are something that people should consider?
Yeah, let me just step back to your opening comments and when you were saying about the SMB animal. And I couldn't help but reflecting back on trying to understand the animal, and the only corollary or the only simile that actually came to my mind is sitting in the Tally office in early days when we just joined Tally and trying to understand this animal and what used to come out in our understanding as a part of the central leadership team working with Mr. Bharat Goenka to understand what is it that he's actually made and how has he actually made this happen. And when we used to come back with our suggestion or our thoughts, invariably, the story which would stick back in my mind would be of the 7 blind men trying to figure out this big elephant. Right? And all of us would be very sure that, look, this is the actual behavior. And be very, very confident that, look, this is what it takes. And there's only one dimension of this particular animal that you're talking about. And if you look at the Indian market and you look at the SMB, the danger all of us end up first doing is painting it with one brush, right? And then trying to say, hey, I'm not seeing the kind of success that this big, huge market that we're talking about. And what successes which Paris talked about, for instance, or for what successes Tally has been able to achieve so far, have been able to solve some specific problems very effectively and in a sense, and in a comprehensive manner. So to answer your question from a specific perspective, now what has worked for Tally in the past and what has helped us to get this kind of attraction is history. What we now need to do and what this animal, so to speak, would currently need are different interjection points and different corrections. But some principles will remain. And the principles, for instance, today their success, and like I was mentioning to you a little earlier, the success of all of us being able to use a mobile phone, not just for messaging, but as business owners to be able to communicate with each other using a telephone and using a WhatsApp with a fundamental differentiator. Why is WhatsApp so successful? You'll be surprised when you actually intervene and actually ask people. It's as simple as, in fact, that I don't need to remember the username password which every other application needs me to block. Now cut back to Tally. Tally's success in adoption came from one simple principle which we still hold dearly to. And this is held and this is non-trivial because there's a benchmark that if within a minute, if you cannot put to use the application by asking or saying or even asking for your customer name and other details which hold back that particular process, it is not released from R&D. So marketing will have a huge problem. Sir, I can't upsell because I don't have database of customer when he bought, what he bought. That's not my problem. Marketing, figure out how you want to upsell, but please do not take away anything from the user experience. So just to touch upon some elements, and I just wanted to open this discussion, so just
I have one more question to ask on that same front. How about the feet on street? Because when you talk about the SMB market, and I'm going to also ask the same question for the next panelist on the SaaS front. India is a very classic market where you may have wonderful solutions, but still the seller needs to see, I mean, the buyer needs to see the seller face to face. That's a kind of tragical situation that we have in India. And given the spread of the SMB market that we have, how do you think people, the startups especially, can kind of crack that?
First is not to put feet on street. Because what you're going to be setting up for is, I was discussing this with a VC the other day, and they are focusing on the education segment. And the salesman, he's saying, what we as a company have to end up doing is paying for 6 pairs of shoes every year. I mean, that's the kind of feet on street you're talking about for a salesman. That's the number of calls you need to make on a school or an education institute to make any kind of attraction. And that's not something we want to recommend, right? Let's take the behavior a little bit. Let's understand this behavior of what the SMB is, what we're talking about. Yeah, sure. He needs to buy from somebody whom he can trust. Unfortunately, the software channel is not yet come into play. I mean, where does he go? He goes and asks an IT vendor, at best, who supplied him hardware. Yes, Tally's cracked it to a large extent, but is a fundamental, I mean, you just have to put yourself in the customer's shoe. He wants to buy. When he wants to buy, okay, he wants to reach out to somebody whom he believes would be able to give him a solution. So your effort is to ensure that the ecosystem for software products is in place. So you have to design a product. Now what does this mean? Let's go to the next. What's the difficulty in doing this? Most products are not designed for a trade to happen. It is designed for you to sell directly, and your revenue model invariably is on services or on the product. So you have designed with an inbuilt limitation, and with that, commerce cannot happen.
Right.
So this is a fundamental design, and if you want to reach out to the market, work on these assumptions, and you can validate these assumptions. Yes, what you can do as a principal company to figure out how to create enough people to continuously want to ask for the product. That's a marketing exercise. It's nothing to do with a feet on seat sales exercise. And that, again, unfortunately, as a subject is not detailed out. Their experiences of B2B marketing is few and far between. So we don't have much to learn from, or a management school cannot teach you those fundamentals. So these are the current gaps which you have to take cognizance of if you want to address the SMB market.
Excellent. So, Pari, we were discussing this much earlier in the game. We talked about having a very micro SMB focus rather than talk about the entire SMB focus. Can you explain that and double down for the audience too?
Correct. So the problem statements for each of the sector, even if you take the manufacturing sector, right? Even within manufacturing, say the jewelry sector, the way behavior is very different. The biggest issue, and we found in one of the studies we did along with Shoaib, the biggest issue is leakage. Right? That's the thing the owner is worried about. If you go to an owner and tell him, hey, I will build a CRM solution for you, I can get you a lot more customers, I can help you sell more, he's not worried about that. He's worried about leakage in the system. So if you have a solution for that, and that could be probably different from even cluster to cluster, then it becomes very, very relevant. Then you got to figure out, okay, what are the leakages in any other adjacent sector? It might not be in some other sector within manufacturing, but something else in retail. Then you take that and then take it to other sectors. So that's really how you need to really focus on a micro problem, which the owner is worried about. If the owner is not worried about, then it goes to somebody else.
We have, sadly, this session is only for 30 minutes, so I want to kind of now throw open the floor to questions. Yep, please go ahead with all the questions and. Little bit.
In terms of making the product, right? So it's some of the gold is siphoned off, or things like that. So that's what I meant leakage. Leakage in the supply chain, in the building the product together. The product in this case is jewelry.
So you could have leakage in the product. That means people could actually take and rob small pieces of gold from you, or your pricing, which is super sensitive. Yes.
It's a pain area faced by an owner. Now, as an entrepreneur, we got to figure out what can software do to solve the problem. But the owner is worried about that particular problem.
What is the only answer here? What do you think? Trust between the vendor and the owner, the software vendor and the owner. Otherwise, how we can address this thing?
So we've got a case study. I'll share it with you separately.
Okay.
Sorry, because I don't want to hijack that discussion, and I don't want to relieve Pari of that question to answer that question.
This is for sure.
About distribution.
Sorry,
we'll just go with the mic.
For sure. Before we open it up, you were referring to product design to eliminate feet on the street.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say eliminate feet on street. I said, look, the product design has to allow for a channel for tradability of the product and commercial design.
Could you elaborate a little bit more?
See, it's very simple. If I'm designing the software and I think that I'm going to directly, as a company, sell the software and I'm going to charge for X amount of implementation services because I'm in touch with the customer, so I want to configure the software such that he can use it, versus saying, hey, I am not going to be the person in front of the customer. Okay, I'm going to possibly sell it through a channel which is a two-tier channel. Because if I now want to reach the entire market, there are 20,000 partners. No one partner structure is going to work. Does the product A first lend itself to deployability without a very sophisticated implementation process? Point number one. Point number two, and I'm shifting quickly. The second biggest challenge is commercial design. How can the tradability of the product be maintained such that it is easy from your commercial structure for multiple people to earn out of selling your product? So you have to leave adequate on the table for service revenues for him as well as commercial revenues on the license, because you don't want to set up a channel which is lopsided where their revenues is on service and your revenues on licenses. When you sit with him, you're not actually a partner because he's a service partner and you're a sales partner. Fundamental flaw. So we are discussing two different things when you're sitting with the partners. So these are very, very specific and detailed constructs which are important, and attention has to be paid for that, and that's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, you had a question.
Vis-a-vis Microsoft Dynamics CRM and
Very good products. Sorry, I can't say anything else.
vis-a-vis Tally. Vis-a-vis Tally.
See, they solve different problems,
Right.
right? And the approaches are different. And of course, customers. Now let me now answer this question to you in a more direct and specific manner. As I was coming for this workshop today, I got a call from Mr. Bharat Goenka's office. They just called me saying, Shweb uncle, we have to sell, Krishna Chetty's called us again. And he's opened a new store and they're figuring out what software to use. And he's bought Tally from us long back. Then he's put crores of rupees, bought SAP. Now again he bought Tally and again he bought SAP. Now he's in a total fix. What should he do? So I asked Tejas a simple question.
And
Tejas, is he calling you because of Tally technology or because Tejas is your friend? No, he's calling me because he's my friend. Which goes back to my assumption. Why do people call? They'll call people whom they trust. But that aside, the problem of a jewelry industry is not out-of-the-box solution of a Tally or an SAP. On an Indian jeweler, I know that there are good products available in the market, but their reputation is not yet in place. Nobody hears about them. There's somebody in Ahmedabad, there's somebody in Delhi, and that's a part of the initiative which we had separately done from iSpirit to promote the jewelry industry to figure out what are the kind of solutions. Unfortunately, they're pseudo products because they've not been tuned to thinking that now if Ahmedabad software has to be sold in Bangalore, he's not designed to be able to sell in Bangalore. So the problem has not got even started to get solved.
Great. You had a question.
Got it. So my question was.
Sorry, a long answer to a very short question of yours.
You still didn't answer his question.
To answer your question, the model of the way Tally is designed is the way it needs to go. Okay, for us to solve these problems in that kind of a manner, and I don't believe that all of us are being able to solve that problem either. I mean, you need to figure out this and get it done.
So you talked about the multiple the channels to get to the SMB business. Do you think the mobile is going to alter it a little bit because that's more personal? How about these products reaching the consumers through mobile and then probably through the desktops rather than the other way around? Because you probably have a lot of these owners already have mobiles and hopefully internet in sometime soon, right?
No question about it. No question about it. The mobile is going to be a game changer in mobile and
In reaching out to SMBs as well.
100%, because the SMB is, I mean, if you take this statement and just flip it and say, look, how many SMBs are using mobile technology? Almost everybody is already. Yeah. So, and that's something we've got to recognize that, look, that's something which is true. And how do you commercialize it? How do you engage it? How do you get it? How do you make it stickier is the way forward. And potentially, you're right.
And if you look at just 18 months ago, if you talk to the SMB owners, they all have this smartphone, right? But most of them are not using it for anything except for phone, and the kids are using it for playing games or movies. It's starting to change now. Now they're using WhatsApp. So the owner behavior is starting to change. And that will drive how the channel, how you sell into the SMBs.
So I'll take a simple example of owner behavior changing. Lost sale today is getting addressed through an application on the phone, which is, I don't have to give an application. He takes a photograph, sends it quickly to the supplier, says, do you have stock? Can I come to the customer sitting there? Hey, he doesn't need a sophisticated ERP to solve the problem. Now, if I go and tell him that, look, to solve that problem, you need a sophisticated ERP, he's going to tell me, look, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So I'll take one more question because I know this is a huge market. Is there any last question there? Yeah. You got a brownie, man.
See, from what both of you have said, more than feet on street, salespeople to go and sell, it requires, looks like we need more, I don't know what to call them, researchers or explorers or people who generate insights from customers. You need more of such people to spend time with customers and in the market, maybe during or before the product development rather than feet on street after product development. So do you think that what is the best way to do that? Is it the founders themselves have to go? Is it any structured way or any way of doing this in a more structured way to get more insights into the actual problems of SME owners?
I think it's a good question. We have to be really, really specific on the problem you want to solve. And it's an immediate need of the owner of the company. If you're able to find a particular problem, even if it's relevant for 100,000 SMBs, I think it's a good enough problem for you to go after. Yeah, you have to meet. You have to meet with the companies to understand this. Right? There's no
random field visits, meeting customers, 100, 200 people.
Again, you want to identify which broader problem area you want to go after and spend time.
Can I just add quickly to that? The difficulty is that when these visits happen, they happen to existing customers. They don't happen to people who don't trust you and who don't have faith in you. And that's the one you actually need to visit. And most operations don't allow that to happen. Unless the owner is himself or the key product designer has that ability to go reach out to a total strange person, sell it to him and then live it with him. That look, face whatever he's going to call you back with. That's the issue. Yeah. And for bigger companies, it becomes more difficult because you are so caught up with.
Right. And also the other approach is WhatsApp. A WhatsApp team is based in Mountain View, and they didn't come here to India to meet with SMBs too. And the SMBs in India are figuring out different ways to use WhatsApp for transactions, right? So sometimes you come up with something so brilliant, people figure out a way to use it.
Thank you. I think that we're completely out of time now. So, huge round of applause for both Barry and for Shoaib.
Thank you.